everyone, this is Kyle, and I haven't really made any videos yet about The Witcher show, but we have one recent headline here regarding The Witcher. And this is from bondingintocomics.com. Former Netflix's The Witcher director praises Henry Cavill's dedication to his role as Geralt, that focus that he has, that desire to get it right. It is a gift to work with. And I got a few different articles here pulled up. I'm not going to read each of them in full. I'm just going to read little bits of each. But starting with this recent one. In breaking from the narrative professed by an anonymous group of the series production team, former Netflix's The Witcher director Mark Jobs has offered public praise for the sheer level of dedication former Geralt actor Henry Cavill gave to the role. Yeah, I know there were some people who were on the production team and they were criticizing Henry Cavill, saying that he was causing problems and things like that, which essentially Henry Cavill, he's a huge fan of The Witcher. He wanted them to stick to the source material, whereas the people on the production team, they wanted to make changes and things like that. And the fact that he wanted them to actually stick to the story, it made him a real problem for these people. Essentially, that was what happened. Jobs, who directed season 1 episodes Before a Fall and much more, spoke to his admiration for Cavill's love for The Witcher and desire for its success while giving an interview to Screen Rant centered on his latest project, Netflix's live-action adaptation of One Piece. At one point, taking a slight detour from the main topic of the Straw Hat Pirates' upcoming adventure, Screen Rant's Grant Herman asked the director if he had any thoughts on Cavill's sudden but understandable departure from The Witcher. And he says, "Well, look, Henry has done 3 series. These are demanding shows to make. You know they are huge." Jobs replied, "Henry does every single beat of his stunts. He won't even allow a hand. If you're doing a close-up of hand grabbing a sword, it has to be his hand. So normally what you do is you bring in a double. Henry will go off and shoot some other scene in which he's in somewhere else, and you get somebody else into the hand so that you don't have to bother your number 1. Henry won't do that, and as a result, the results are extraordinary," he then declared. "You're working with an incredible athlete, first and foremost, who works out hours before and hours after you've been shooting for 12 hours, and who cares deeply about the work that he does." This Henry Cavill guy, he sounds great, doesn't he? Yeah, he sounds like he'd be a great guy to have acting in your movie if you're a director. I mean, these next couple paragraphs, I think they're talking a little more about fight scenes and that sort of thing. But down here he talks about Henry Cavill again. Concluding his thoughts on Cavill's performance, Jobs ultimately praised that focus that he has, that desire to get right, is a gift to work with, because it elevates everybody to say good enough isn't good enough. It's got to be fantastic. We all want to work like that. We all don't want to make something that's good. We want to make something incredible. This Henry Cavill guy, he sounds like a great person to work with. As noted above, Jobs' rave review of not just Cavill's professionalism, but also his overall character stands in stark contrast to the disingenuous attempt made by a number of unidentified The Witcher production team members to paint the actor's respect for himself and the source material as disrespectful and toxic. Yeah, again, Cavill wanted to stick to the actual story. He wanted to stick to the actual source material, whereas, the people working on the production team, I mean, people in Hollywood in general, they're not interested in actually sticking to the source material whenever they adapt any kind of story. I mean, sticking to the story when you're making a movie adaptation, that's become controversial nowadays. I mean, it's something that really takes courage to do when you're in Hollywood and you're surrounded by a bunch of people who are not actual entertainers, but rather activists. Activists whose priority is essentially to, put their ideology into everything that they adapt. Turn everything that they get their hands on into platforms, rather than fun, entertaining movies or shows. But it goes on. The production team anonymous members saying he, Henry Cavill, would rewrite scenes without even alerting the other actors in the scenes until it was time to shoot. He decided that he didn't want any romance scenes at all. Read one portion of the group's complaint: no kissing, no shirtless scenes, etc. He wanted complete control of storylines, but really had no idea of the limitations of TV structure, budget, etc. In other words, this horrible, toxic human being here, he wanted them to stick to the actual source material. He wanted them to actually show respect to the story, something that the production team really didn't have any interest in doing. He formed a weird alliance with one writer who was also a gamer. I'm guessing this one writer was also a huge fan of The Witcher. I don't know though, but it's just a guess. Who eventually got fired after multiple HR complaints were made, it adds. And after that writer left, Henry did anything he could to hold up production and cause problems. Now, I got a couple other articles here that I'm going to show you. This one right here is Game Rant. This is one report we were hearing. The Witcher former writer recalls staff actively mocking the source material. So Baldomero shed light on some of the lack of respect towards the Witcher source material noticed by diehard fans in the show. Adapting any beloved franchise usually requires a ton of love for it, yet it turns out there were more than a few non-fans in The Witcher's writer's room when Geralt of Rivia made the jump to Netflix, at least according to one of its main writers. And yeah, that's absolutely baffling. Why would you not have fans working in the production room or the writer's room? I mean, when you're adapting a story onto the screen, whether it be a TV show or a movie, the people who are working in the writer's room, the directors and whoever, they need to be people who actually love the story and who are fans of the story, because people who love the story are going to be far more likely to have respect for that story. I mean, plain and simple. I'm going to skip a little bit of this. I'm going to get to the quote here. So, Beau DeMaio, he's quoted as saying, "You have to have respect for the work before you are allowed to add to its legacy." As writer Beau DeMaio commented during a recent Instagram Q&A session via Sci-Fi and Fantasy Gazette, something he found lacking in The Witcher since, and we quote, "Some of the writers were not fans or actively disliked the books and games, even actively mocking the source material. It's a recipe for a disaster and bad morale." Perhaps it's no surprise then that DeMaio wanted those kinds of vibes nowhere near his X-Men 97 project for Marvel, where he only brought certified lovers of the original animated series on board. Yeah, whenever you're adapting anything, you only want to have people who love that story working with you, working on that adaptation. You never want to have people who are not fans or people who actively dislike the source material that you're charged with adapting. And then I have another article here, ScreenRant.com. Cavill told us the real reason he's leaving The Witcher a long time ago. Henry Cavill is sadly leaving The Witcher after Season 3, and past interviews have already revealed the real reason of his unexpected departure. And I mean, this is a huge paragraph. Wow. That is a huge paragraph. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm really just going to read the quotes from Henry Cavill here. I'm going to start right here. At least the quotes are italicized, so yeah, that helps. Alright, but anyway, for Henry Cavill, the opportunity to play the character of Geralt was something of a dream come true. "I really enjoy playing these kinds of games and reading these kinds of books in my spare time," he observed in an interview back in 2019. "I don't consider it a job. For me, it's more like an extraordinary opportunity to live my childhood and adult life fantasies via hobby consoles." This, more than anything else, has made the recent news Cavill is leaving The Witcher after Season 3 particularly shocking. In truth, though, Henry Cavill has been hinting at his displeasure with Netflix's The Witcher franchise for quite some time. The problems stem from the very fact that he is a fan of the source material, both the books and the games. He clearly wanted to be a part of a faithful adaptation, one that brought to life everything he loved about Andrzej Sapkowski's novels and those classic games. In contrast, however, the creative team behind The Witcher has clearly showed little respect for the source material, and the story feels as though it's increasingly deviating from the one Cavill loves. So according to the writers team on The Witcher, this guy was toxic and disrespectful. How dare he want them to stay true to the actual story? How dare he? What a terrible human being. And as a result of that, he ends up leaving. And make no mistake, fans loved how well he played Geralt of Rivia, and they are not happy that he's leaving at all. And I got just like another quote or two down here. Cavill had previously committed to The Witcher's 7-season plans, but in interviews he made it clear that there was a caveat. He insisted that he was only on board as long as we keep telling great stories which honor Sapkowski's work, via The Hollywood Reporter. That point has come up time and time again, including when Cavill was pressed about whether his character Geralt could work with other Witchers in more in future seasons. "It all depends on how much the story allows," he observed in an interview published on The Witcher's YouTube channel. "I'm a huge fan of the books and staying loyal to them, and it's about making sure that the story happens without too much in the way of diversions or side things that are going on to muddy the waters." And this one person here, he puts it pretty well. "There's no way Witcher Netflix didn't see this coming. They knew how Henry felt, he was open about it, and they decided they didn't care." Yeah, I mean, these people in Hollywood, these people working in entertainment today, they have no interest in sticking to the source material. And it's the main reason why, there was once a time when people were looking forward to hearing that their favorite book was going to be turned into a movie, and now, whenever we hear headlines like that there's going to be a movie adaptation for a certain story, We instead, nowadays, we end up dreading hearing the news because we know that they're not going to make a good adaptation. Instead, they're going to intentionally vandalize it. I mean, let's see, Witcher here, they deviated pretty far from the source material. Wheel of Time, they made changes to that. Lord of the Rings, do not get me started with what Amazon did to Lord of the Rings. I mean, the people working on that show, what they did to Tolkien's work was unforgivable. But Henry Cavill here, I gotta admit, I commend him for this. He's not going to have any part of that. I mean, if he sees that they're going to be vandalizing a story that he loves, he's not going to have any part of it. And the end result here, now the news of Henry Cavill leaving, it broke out before the third season of The Witcher premiered. Here's another article from Screen Rant. It's not just Henry Cavill, 7 reasons The Witcher Season 3's viewership dropped so badly, but it goes down just to give you some of the details here about how the Season 3 of The Witcher is done, or at least Part 1 of it. To be specific, the viewership of The Witcher Season 3 went down 15% from what it garnered during The Witcher Season 2. While this may seem like a narrow number, it actually gets worse. The Witcher Season 3 also dropped in viewership 60% over the course of the show's first 5 episodes. Because the season was split in 2 parts, there is a chance that the statistics could rise. However, the current bottom line is that the latest installment of The Witcher is suffering, and there are plenty of reasons why this could be happening, and they come up with a bunch of reasons. Let's see here. Henry Cavill's exit has put people off The Witcher before he's even left. Yeah, absolutely it has. The Witcher Season 2 was divisive. Witcher Season 3 has too many problems. Witcher Season 3 is split in 2 parts, so viewers may just wait. I don't know about that one. Witcher is veering too far from the source material. Yeah, I think audiences are going to agree on that one. Netflix's clampdown on password sharing could have hurt The Witcher. What do you think of that one? Do you believe that one, or do you think that they're reaching for a reason on that? And number 1, The Witcher doesn't suit being a summer release. Again, do you think that's a reason, or do you think that's a bit of a reach? But number 3 here, veering from the source material. I mean, that at the end of the day, that would be the first reason why The Witcher 3 is not doing so well. And this reason right here is what led to this reason right here, Henry Cavill leaving. And, you know, people loved how Henry Cavill played Geralt of Rivia. And so when they heard he was leaving, yeah, that caused a lot of interest in The Witcher to drop. So much so that Netflix here, they had to put out some ads or whatever reminding you that no, Henry Cavill is still around for Season 3. I mean, make no mistake, The Witcher is in trouble, and Netflix, they know it. I mean, when they get to Season 4 and Henry Cavill's gone, yeah, I don't think it's going to go too well. Everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, if you consider hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button, I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you all very much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Take care until then.